सत श्री अकाल। नॉर्थ अमेरिका न्यूज़ वेख रहे सारे दर्शकों का स्वागत है। मैं हाँ कमलजीत कौर। बुलेटिन की शुरुआत करते हैं हैडलाइनस के नाल। गुरुद्वारा गुरु नानक प्रकाश फ्रिजनो वालों श्री गुरु नानक देव जी के प्रकाश पुरब नूं समर्पित सजाया गया सालाना नगर कीर्तन। गुरु घर विखे हाज़र बहुत सारे कीर्तनी जथियां ने संगतां नूं गुरबाणी नाल कीता निहाल। विदेश मंत्री एंटनी ब्लिंकन ने नेपाल के विदेश मंत्री के नाल कीती मुलाकात। नेपाल के वल्लों खुराक सुरक्षा और IT समेत कई खेत्रों के विच अमरीका तो सहयोग की कीती मंग। गैस टैक्स रियायत नूं जून 2024 तक जारी रखेगी ओंटारियो सरकार। प्रीमियर डग फोर्ड के वल्लों कीता गया ऐलान। हुण खबरां विस्तार दे नाल। गुरुद्वारा गुरु नानक प्रकाश फ्रिजनो वालों श्री गुरु नानक देव जी के प्रकाश पुरब नूं समर्पित सालाना नगर कीर्तन करवाया गया है, जिसकी शुरुआत श्री अखंड पाठ साहब के भोग के उपरंत गुरमत दीवान की समाप्ति तो बाद हुई। गुरु घर विखे हाज़र बहुत सारे कीर्तनी जथियां और कथाकारां ने संगतां नूं निरोल गुरबाणी नाल निहाल कीता। गुरु घर के बाहर नगर कीर्तन च शामिल केसरी, नीलियां, हरियां, पीलियां और होर बहुत रंगां दे नज़ारे पेश करदियां दस्तारां ते दुपट्टियां ने जिमें सारे फ्रिजनो शहर नूं ही खालसाई रंग दे नाल रंग दिता। ट्रक्कां ते सजे होए वख-वख तरह के सुनेहे पेश करदे फ्लैक्सां ने विलखण नज़ारा पेश किया। बच्चों के गतका ग्रुपां वल्लों अपनी इस कला का खुल के प्रदर्शन किया गया। दुकानदारां दे वल्लों अनेकां दुकानां ते वख-वख बूथां दे विच भी संगतां नूं खिच दा केंद्र पैदा करदे नज़ारे पेश किए गए। नेपाल के विदेश मंत्री प्रकाश नारायण साउद इन्हीं दिनी अमरीका दौरे ते ने। इस दौरान उन्होंने खुराक सुरक्षा और IT समेत कई खेत्रों के विच अमरीका तो सहयोग मंगया है। नेपाल की अमरीका नाल दोस्ती वादी वेख के चीन चिंतित है। दरअसल चीन नहीं चाहता कि नेपाल अमरीका के नाल अजिहा समझौता करे, पर नेपाल के विदेश मंत्री ने नेपाल व्यापार तरजीह प्रोग्राम के मुड़ अधिकार और विस्तार लई बेनती की है और व्यापार और निवेश मार्केट पहुंच, भोजन सुरक्षा और IT वर्गे खेत्रों के विच अमरीका तो समर्थन वधाउण दी बेनती की है। नेपाल ने यह बेनती वाशिंगटन दे विच नेपाल के विदेश मंत्री नारायण प्रकाश साउद और अमरीका के विदेश मंत्री एंटनी ब्लिंकन दरमियान हुई दुवल्ली मीटिंग दे विच कीती।
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to welcome the Foreign Minister here to the State Department, to Washington. Very much looking forward to this conversation. I have to start, though, on a very difficult note, which is to share again our condolences for the 10 Nepalese students who were murdered by Hamas in Israel. We feel their loss deeply, as we feel the loss of so many who were slaughtered by Hamas. We have 76 years of diplomatic relations between Nepal and the United States, and Nepal is today a very valued partner in the Indo-Pacific. We're working together to ensure that we have a free, open, secure, prosperous region. And in so many ways, Nepal is leading, not just in the region, but globally as a very constructive actor in international organizations, of course, with so many peacekeepers who are trying to help people move from conflict to peace around the world. And in our own bilateral relationship, we're working to deepen it, to strengthen it even more, particularly with more people-to-people ties, and as well economic ties, investment. So we have a lot to talk about today, and I'm just delighted to be here.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I would convey my gratitude to Secretary of State Antony Blinken for providing us such a precious time in this complicated situation, especially in Middle East and other preoccupied schedule. Nepal and the United States has very long and close relations. United States is development partner of Nepal. United States is helping us in too many sectors, especially in infrastructure, health, education, and now in Middle East also, we are victim of terrorism. I would like to thank Mr. Secretary for
ਅਮਰੀਕੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਚੋਟੀ ਦੇ ਅਧਿਕਾਰੀ ਨੇ ਸੰਸਦ ਮੈਂਬਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬਾਈਡਨ ਪ੍ਰਸ਼ਾਸਨ ਨੇ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਖਤਰੇ ਦੀ ਤਰਜੀਹ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਫ਼ਰਤ ਅਪਰਾਧ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਸ਼ਾਮਿਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ। ਉਸਨੇ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਤੇ ਜ਼ੋਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਅੱਤਵਾਦੀ ਸੰਗਠਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ ਧਰਮ ਆਧਾਰਿਤ ਹਮਲਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 60% ਯਹੂਦੀ ਭਾਈਚਾਰੇ ਨੂੰ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨਾ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। FBI ਦੇ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟਰ ਕ੍ਰਿਸਟੋਫਰ ਰੇ ਨੇ ਅਮਰੀਕੀ ਕਾਂਗਰਸ ਦੀ ਸੁਣਵਾਈ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਸੰਸਦ ਮੈਂਬਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ FBI ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਲਾਗੂ ਕਰਨ ਦੀਆਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ਾਂ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਲੜੀ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਨਫ਼ਰਤ ਅਪਰਾਧਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਨਜਿੱਠ ਰਿਹਾ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੰਯੁਕਤ ਅੱਤਵਾਦ ਵਿਰੋਧੀ ਟਾਸਕ ਫੋਰਸ, ਨਫ਼ਰਤ ਅਪਰਾਧ ਅਤੇ ਜਾਂਚ ਖੂਫੀਆ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀਆਂ ਸਾਂਝੀਆਂ ਸ਼ਾਮਿਲ ਨੇ।
Since the horrific terrorist attacks committed by Hamas against innocent people in Israel a few weeks ago, we've been working around the clock to support our partners there and to protect Americans here at home. We assess that the actions of Hamas and its allies will serve as an inspiration the likes of which we haven't seen since ISIS launched its so-called caliphate several years ago. In just the past few weeks, multiple foreign terrorist organizations have called for attacks against Americans and the West. Al-Qaeda issued its most specific call to attack the United States in the last 5 years. ISIS urged its followers to target Jewish communities in the United States and Europe. Hezbollah has publicly expressed its support for Hamas and threatened to attack U.S. interests in the Middle East. And we've seen an increase in attacks on U.S. military bases overseas carried out by militia groups backed by Iran. Here in the United States, our most immediate concern is that violent extremists, individuals or small groups, will draw inspiration from the events in the Middle East to carry out attacks against Americans going about their daily lives. That includes not just homegrown violent extremists inspired by a foreign terrorist organization, but also domestic violent extremists targeting Jewish or Muslim communities. We've already seen that with the individual we arrested last week in Houston who'd been studying how to build bombs and posted online about his support for killing Jews. And with the tragic killing of a 6-year-old Muslim boy in Illinois in what we're investigating as a federal hate crime. But as I said a few moments ago, on top of the homegrown violent extremists and domestic violent extremist threat, we also cannot and do not discount the possibility that Hamas or another foreign terrorist organization may exploit the current conflict to conduct attacks here on our own soil. We have kept our sights on Hamas and have multiple ongoing investigations into individuals affiliated with that foreign terrorist organization. And while historically our Hamas cases have identified individuals located here who are facilitating and financing Hamas's terrorism overseas,
ਇਜ਼ਰਾਈਲ ਅਤੇ ਹਮਾਸ ਵਿਚਾਲੇ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੇ ਟਕਰਾਅ ਦੇ ਦਰਮਿਆਨ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ 300 ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਸੈਨਿਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਮਰੀਕੀ ਸੈਂਟਰਲ ਕਮਾਂਡ ਖੇਤਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਭੇਜੇਗਾ। ਇਹ ਖੇਤਰ ਮੱਧ ਪੂਰਬ ਅਤੇ ਅਫਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਕੁਝ ਹਿੱਸਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਵਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਪੈਂਟਾਗਨ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਸਕੱਤਰ ਬ੍ਰਿਗੇਡੀਅਰ ਜਨਰਲ ਪੈਟਰਿਕ ਰਾਈਡਰ ਨੇ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ। ਪੈਟਰਿਕ ਰਾਈਡਰ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸੈਨਿਕ ਖੇਤਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਸੈਨਿਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਪ੍ਰਦਾਨ ਕਰਨਗੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਸਪਸ਼ਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸੈਨਿਕ ਇਜ਼ਰਾਈਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਣਗੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਮਕਸਦ ਅਮਰੀਕੀ ਸੁਰੱਖਿਆ ਬਲ ਸਮਰੱਥਾ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਵਧਾਉਣਾ ਹੈ।
In areas like regional security and stability. So the deployment of these additional forces are there to do a couple of things. Most importantly, to send a clear message of deterrence to whether it be state or non-state actors, that they should not exploit the situation in Israel to try to escalate this. What we want is to prevent a broader regional conflict, and so that's mission number one. Number two is to ensure that we have the forces in the Middle East region to protect U.S. forces and our partners as they conduct their important missions. For example, in Iraq and Syria, as you know, we have forces there at the invitation of the government of Iraq to fight ISIS and ensure that ISIS can't come back. So again, these missions are important. We'll continue to stay very focused on deterring a broader regional conflict and protecting U.S. forces wherever they're serving. Well, as I mentioned, U.S. forces are in Iraq at the invitation of the government of Iraq to assist their security forces in defeating ISIS. The same reason we're in Syria. Those forces are there for one reason and one reason only, and that's the enduring defeat of ISIS. And so unfortunately, as we've seen in the past, Iranian-backed proxies have conducted several attacks against our forces serving in those areas. And so what you saw last Thursday was we took very targeted surgical airstrikes on some IRGC facilities, a weapons storage facility, an ammunition facility, to send a clear message that we will protect and defend our forces, and we will take appropriate action at a time and place of our choosing. We do not want a wider conflict with Iran. We do not seek conflict with Iran, but we will never hesitate to protect our forces that are serving overseas doing important work. So I'm not going to get into any hypotheticals. Our focus with Israel is on ensuring that they have what they need to protect their people. As you know, going back to October 7th, Hamas conducted a brutal cruel terrorist attack, killing 1,400 Israeli civilians, as well as taking hostages. So we're very focused on ensuring they have what they need to protect their people. At the same time, we recognize the humanitarian situation in Gaza, which is why you see the U.S. government working very closely with Israeli, Egyptian officials and other NGOs in the region to ensure that aid can get into Gaza.
ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਜਸਟਿਨ ਟਰੂਡੋ ਨੇ ਸਪਸ਼ਟ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਹੋਮ ਹੀਟਿੰਗ ਆਇਲ ਅਤੇ ਟੈਕਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਛੋਟ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਹੋਰ ਛੋਟ ਜਾਂ ਰੋਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਲਾਈ ਜਾਵੇਗੀ। ਟਰੂਡੋ ਨੇ ਆਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰਦੂਸ਼ਣ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਮੁਲਤਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏਗਾ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਆਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੋਲੇ ਦੀ ਵਰਤੋਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੌਲੀ-ਹੌਲੀ ਹਟਾਇਆ, ਉਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਹੋਮ ਹੀਟਿੰਗ ਆਇਲ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਹਟਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾਏ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਆਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਅਸਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਮ ਹੀਟਿੰਗ ਆਇਲ ਦੀ ਵਰਤੋਂ ਨੂੰ ਖਤਮ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਕਾਰਨ ਵਧੇਰੇ ਪ੍ਰਦੂਸ਼ਣ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਮਹਿੰਗਾ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਘੱਟ ਆਮਦਨ ਵਾਲੇ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਵਧੇਰੇ ਆਰਥਿਕ ਬੋਝ ਵੱਧਦਾ ਹੈ।
Talk about home heating oil specifically first and make it very, very clear. Home heating oil is 50% more emitting than natural gas, for example. It's far more expensive, and it impacts the most vulnerable lower income homes much more. A greater proportion of people who use home heating oils don't have other alternatives. That's why we're moving forward with a program that is going to replace home heating oil furnaces with heat pumps right across the country. It's not just regional, it's right across the country. And if premiers like in Saskatchewan, in Manitoba, Alberta and elsewhere want to do the same thing that Newfoundland, PEI and Nova Scotia are doing, which is work with us to make sure that low-income families get heat pumps for free, we're there to work with them. It's a program for right across the country.
Okay, we didn't get you in English. Can you just declaratively say, will there be a carve-out for other carbon taxes in English? I know you said in French, but just to clarify.
There will absolutely not be any other carve-outs or suspensions of the price on pollution. This is designed to phase out home heating oil the way we made a decision to phase out coal. Now, when we decided to phase out coal as a country, there were provinces that had long gone from coal that didn't help them at all that we were phasing out coal because they'd already done it. Others needed to step up to do it. This is specifically about ending the use of home heating oil, which is more polluting, more expensive, and impacts low-income Canadians to a greater degree.
ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਫਿਊਲ ਟੈਕਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਿਆਇਤ ਜਾਰੀ ਰੱਖਣ ਦਾ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਸੂਬੇ ਦੇ ਲੋਕ 30 ਜੂਨ 2024 ਤੱਕ ਸਹੂਲਤ ਦਾ ਲਾਭ ਲੈ ਸਕਣਗੇ। ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਡਗ ਫੋਰਡ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ 1 ਜੁਲਾਈ 2022 ਤੋਂ ਗੈਸ ਟੈਕਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਟੌਤੀ ਦੀ ਸਹੂਲਤ ਆਰੰਭੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਖਤਮ ਹੋਣ ਦੀ ਮਿਆਦ ਨੇੜੇ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਵੇਖ ਕੇ ਨਵੇਂ ਸਿਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਵਾਅਦਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਇਟਿਬਕੋ ਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਗੈਸ ਸਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਪੁੱਜੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਡਗ ਫੋਰਡ ਨੇ ਪੱਤਰਕਾਰਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦਿਆਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਵੱਡੀ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੋਕ ਸੰਘਰਸ਼ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਗੈਸ ਅਤੇ ਗਰੋਸਰੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਵਧਦੀਆਂ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਜੂਝਣਾ ਪੈ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ।
Increasingly, hardworking people and families are having trouble making ends meet. The fact is, people need a little bit of help. That's why our government is focused on finding ways to put money back into people's pockets. We eliminated fees for the license plate stickers, saving vehicle owners $120 per car and truck. There was 8 million people that got rebates. We scrapped the tolls on the highways 412 and 418, making it more affordable for folks out in Durham and everywhere else, right in your neck of the woods, Peter. We cut income tax for 1.1 million low-income workers, saving the average person $300 every year. We're eliminating, and this is a big one, we're eliminating double fares for commuters transferring between transit systems, saving transit riders up to $1,600 a year. And in 2022, we introduced a temporary gas tax cut, saving people and businesses a total of over 10 cents per liter of gas. Just imagine, folks, you see the prices at the gas pumps. Imagine if we didn't do that, that'd be another 10 cents. Today, I'm pleased to announce we're extending the gas tax cut through to June 30th, 2024, providing people and businesses relief at the pumps for another 6 months. This extension will save the average household $260 per year since the tax cut was first introduced. That's money that goes back into people's pockets to help cover essential expenses, because we know every dollar counts. But friends, as inflationary pressures continue to strain household budgets, we need to do more. That's why last week I sent letters to the Governor of Bank of Canada and the Prime Minister, urging them to put a stop to the crushing, and I say crushing, interest rate hikes. Instead, we need to tackle the root causes of inflation so we can avoid these painful hikes in the future. Working together with our federal and provincial counterparts, we need to strengthen domestic supply chains. We need to invest in key infrastructure projects like the Bradford Bypass, Highway 413, Highway 7 connecting Kitchener to Guelph to tackle gridlock and get goods to market sooner. We have to work to ensure immigration policies attract more skilled newcomers.
ਲਿਬਰਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਬਨ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਸਿੰਗ ਪਲਾਨ ਦਾ ਮੁੱਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫੇਰ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਛਾਇਆ ਰਿਹਾ। ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਆਗੂ ਪੀਏਰ ਪੋਲੀਵਰ ਨੇ ਆਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕੁਝ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਲਈ ਕਾਰਬਨ ਟੈਕਸ, ਕੁਝ ਫਿਊਲ ਉੱਤੇ ਕੁਝ ਅਰਸੇ ਲਈ ਛੋਟ ਦੇਣ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਉਹ ਹਜ਼ਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ। ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਬਸ ਨਹੀਂ, ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਮੰਨਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਵਧੀਆ ਪਲਾਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ ਅਗਾਹਾਂ ਲਿਬਰਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਰੂਰਲ ਅਫੇਅਰਸ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਾਰੇ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨਸ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਫਾਇਦਾ ਮਿਲ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਇਹ ਇਸ ਲਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਲਿਬਰਲਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੁਣਿਆ। ਪੋਲੀਏਵਰ ਨੇ ਲਿਬਰਲਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੰਮੇ ਹੱਥੀ ਲੈਂਦਿਆਂ ਆਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਹਲਕਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਟੈਕਸ ਰੇਟ ਇਸ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਮਿਲਣਗੇ ਜਿਸ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਲੋਕ ਵੋਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ।
Oil heating proved everything he said for 8 years about the tax is wrong. It's not worth the cost. He said that the tax would make people better off. He's now admitted that that's not true. He said it's about the environment, but he leaves the tax on lower emitting and more environmentally friendly natural gas. And now he's dividing Canadians based on where they live. So will he stop creating two classes of Canadians? Will he take the tax off all so Canadians can keep the heat on?
The goal from the very beginning of our fight against climate change and the price on pollution was to put more money in people's pockets and encourage protecting the planet. And that's exactly what we've seen over the past number of years. As a step, one of the things we are targeting right now is home heating oil, which is used right across the country, primarily by lower income residences, and they pay more for home heating oil than you do for natural gas, and it's dirtier and more emitting than natural gas.
Right.
So we are going to provide free heat pumps for low-income families in provinces that are willing to participate with us and drive down emissions.
He admits that he's keeping the tax on cleaner and lower emitting natural gas. This is clearly not about environmental science, it's about political science. And that political science with him is always divide and conquer. Tear the country apart to serve his own narrow personal interest. Does he not realize that what he is doing is not just bankrupting Canadian households, 14% of whom are living with unsafe temperatures because of higher energy costs, but he's actually tearing our national unity apart?
Mr. Speaker, what we see from the Conservatives yet again is misinformation. The price on pollution applied to natural gas does put more money back in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians across the country. That is what the Leader of the Opposition refuses to recognize. When Canadians receive a climate action incentive check, that more than compensates for 8 out of 10 households across the country than what they spend on carbon price with natural gas. It doesn't apply that way. That math doesn't apply on home heating, which is why we're phasing out home heating oil by replacing them with free heat pumps for low-income Canadians.
ਬੈਂਕ ਆਫ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਗਵਰਨਰ ਟਿਫ ਮੈਕਲਮ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਫਿਸਕਲ ਤੇ ਮੋਨਿਟਰੀ ਪਾਲਿਸੀ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਤੋਂ ਉਲਟ ਦਿਸ਼ਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਇਸ ਲਈ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਨੂੰ ਹੇਠਾਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲ ਹੋਇਆ ਪਿਆ ਹੈ। ਬੈਂਕ ਆਫ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਰੇਟ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਤੇ ਕੁਆਰਟਰਲੀ ਇਕਨੋਮਿਕਸ ਪੇਸ਼ਨਗੋਈ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਮੈਕਲਮ ਹਾਊਸ ਆਫ ਕਾਮਨਸ ਦੀ ਵਿੱਤ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਦੇ ਐਮਪੀਜ਼ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਪੇਸ਼ ਹੋਣ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਐਮਪੀ ਜਸਰਾਜ ਸਿੰਘ ਹੱਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ ਸਵਾਲ ਦੇ ਜਵਾਬ ਵਿੱਚ ਗਵਰਨਰ ਨੇ ਆਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸੈਂਟਰਲ ਬੈਂਕ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਨੂੰ ਠੱਲ ਪਾਉਣ ਦੀਆਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ਾਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਾ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਖਰਚੇ ਦੀ ਅਹਿਮ ਭੂਮਿਕਾ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਿਭਾਈ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਗਵਰਨਰ ਨੇ ਆਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਬਜਟ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਾਬਿਕ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਖਰਚੇ ਸਪਲਾਈ ਦੇ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਤੇਜ਼ੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵਧਣਗੇ ਅਤੇ ਇਸ ਨਾਲ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਨੂੰ ਕੰਟਰੋਲ ਕਰਨ ਉੱਤੇ ਵੀ ਦਬਾਅ ਪਵੇਗਾ।
People obviously need shelter, but if they can't afford it, they can't buy it.
Indeed, but the need doesn't go away. And would you say that in this present moment, we're experiencing a serious supply shortage in the Canadian housing market?
We've seen a building supply shortage now for at least a decade. And the supply of housing is not keeping up with the growth in demand, and that is creating a more acute problem.
And would you say that since interest rates have gone up, that housing starts are lower and we're seeing less new housing stock being added in a higher interest rate environment?
Higher interest rates have dampened demand for housing, and in fact, housing market was very overheated. Housing prices were rising extremely rapidly when we had very low interest rates. As we've raised them, housing prices have actually come down. However, higher interest rates means the carrying cost of mortgage is higher, so affordability has not improved.
So we've heard around this table from experts in the financial industry and the housing industry that the housing crisis won't be solved without some significant level of government investment and contribution. Are you inclined to agree with that assessment?
I will say that we've had a building supply issue in housing now for a decade, and I think speaking on behalf of certainly Senior Deputy Governor and I, we are pleased to see the governments on all levels are more focused on this issue. I don't think this is something that any one level of government is going to be able to solve by themselves. It is going to take all levels of government putting their heads together, and ultimately it's the private sector that are going to build most of these houses or apartment buildings, and they certainly need to be at the table as well.
So I guess my question for you is when you talk about, the forecast of 2.5% spending increase across government, I mean, from the point of view of understanding inflation, from the point of view of understanding how we can get our housing market to the place where prices are coming down for Canadians that are having access to more affordable housing, does it not make sense to discriminate between kind of spending in general?
ਸੋ ਨਾਰਥ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਿਲਹਾਲ ਇੰਨਾ ਹੀ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦਿਓ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ।